Hi YouTube, welcome back to Wtf Rc Cars. So, carrying on with the G11P videos, we're going to be looking at some of the settings for curve. So there's multiple reasons you might want to use this. So if we go into steering, we've got an exponential, and basically we can change this. So if we go 100%, we're going to get a lot of initial travel on the steering and then less sensitive towards the end of the travel. If you go 100% negative, you're going to be able to move the RC a lot from centre, and then all your steering's going to come back in at the end. Now, reasons why you might want to do this: if you're finding your RC a little twitchy in a straight line, but you feel like you're overcompensating, so you can go towards the negative and you're going to have a bit more travel on the wheel before it's going to make such a big input on the RC itself. Or if you find your initial steering is really slow and you're having to turn the wheel, feels like you're having to turn it too far, you can go into positive, and then that's going to give you more travel on your actual steering towards the beginning, and then fade out to normal towards the end. So there is quite a few uses for this. At any point, if you press and hold this button, it'll reset it to 0 for you. So your options are, you can have it exponential like that, or you can have an actual point at where it does it. So if we look at steering, it's linear at the moment. Then we've got the point that we want it to change. So you can alter this. It's in 1-step increments. If we leave it at 50. So if we then go positive, you can see you've got a lot more movement, and then a defined point where it tapers off. And again, if we go into negative, you can see your first initial movement won't change your wheels much, but then you'll get a lot of steering after the point that you've set. So it really depends. Things like steering rate and exponential really depend on the RC. It also depends on exactly how you want it to behave. And then you've got the toggle at the top to turn it on or off. Then if we drop down to our throttle, so we can see a standard throttle is just linear. At the minute we've got it set so we can set the actual point it changes, and then you can change and basically build yourself a throttle curve, so you can make it more or less sensitive up until the point what you've set. So if we look at what other options we've got, we can have, if we start with exponential, so we can start off at 100% negative, where it's going to take a lot of travel before it starts adding percentage of throttle. You can use that if you feel your RC is really twitchy, if you feel it's really flat at bottom end and you're having to pull trigger a lot. So we can go in and we can set it all the way to 100%, and then very little travel will quickly increase the throttle and then taper off towards the end. Really depends how you want the RC to behave. So if we reset that, and then one that I know quite a few at drag racers use. So we've got 5 points that we can change the actual point of the throttle and how it behaves. So if you're setting up a drag RC, you can play around with all these, and you just go through changing them to whatever you want. And if you mess it all up, you can just press reset and it'll just set them all to a linear point. But you do have 5 points. So when they're using drag RCs, they mess around with servo speed and throttle lock to basically give you a 1-button launch, and you can stagger this however you like. Depends on the throttle servo speed you set. But you can have basically like an auto launch and it'll just work its way through at the intervals that you want. But you do have 5 of them to do. And then if we go into brake, there's not a lot to cover on this because it's pretty much just same as throttle. You've got the single point or you've got the multi-point that you can set to create your curve. Other things that we can do with this, so if we go to the assignment menu, if we look at the K for the buttons, for all these we can go in, so we can set K1 to steering. If we go into K2 we can set that to forward, K3 we can set to brake, and then if we back out, you see as soon as you press it you get the pop-up tip telling you that it's open or closed, and you get the little icon come on, and if you see the icon on you can tell that you've got at least one of your exponentials turned on. So it just lets you know, it won't tell you which one, but it will let you know that you've got at least one of these enabled. Other things, so if we go to assignment menu and then we come down to, I believe, either the trims or the variables, we should be able to do this. So if we go in VR1 and you set that to your steering Expo, if we go to his Expo screen so you can see what we're doing, so we've gone to curve, go into steering, so we've got a button to turn it on, and then we're using one of the variables to actually increase or decrease it. And there's that many buttons on this and options, you've got to work out which ones you want and which ones are the ones where you're going to be wanting to alter them on fly. And you can just pick the ones you want and assign them to pretty much any of the variables, or any of the trims will let you adjust things. So yeah, plenty of options. So if we go into his variables and we work his way down, we can go to his throttle EXP or exponential, we can set that, we can pop out, and then if we go into his curve and go into his forward for throttle, you can now see we've got his rate on a dial, and we can play around with that. It'll let you change the rate, not the point where you've got it aimed, and it'll operate on the one you have selected in here. So if we then change it to curve, it'll change the one that is selected. So depending on which one you're using, depends on how useful this is going to be. Really, I'd say it's going to be more useful if you're using one where you've got a single rate control. Not so useful on the others, but it's an option that you've got. They're programmable, so we can turn it on and off, and you can have control of the actual rates. So if you're steering exponential, you want set at 80%, or if for a certain track you want 30% exponential, or if your tyres warm up and your car's not as twitchy, you can basically have your exponential so you can control it and enable or disable it. No exponential or exponential, depending on your needs. Again, you can program these features, anything that controls it. You can have a trim or a variable, and anything that turns it on and off, if you assign that, it'll be one of your switches. So that's the curve settings covered, and it covers steering, brake and forward, so plenty to mess around with and play around with, very tunable. But Thanks again for watching WTF Rc Cars. Hopefully you find this useful, entertaining, or a bit of both. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, share to friends and family, and catch you guys again in the next one.